So why we are in the call. So today this is our first session actually. Take it as a community session because I know many of you are interested to first time at least know and hear the whoever is the trainer, that if trainer's speech, his explanation style, or his conducting session style really matches with your expectation, and so on and so forth. And that means initially we keep 2 to 3 sessions as a community sessions. So it gives you guys a bit of a feel about if you would be comfortable to join this particular session. We are This is session intended for the S4 HANA advanced sales processes. So be clear, we are not really going to talk about a document type, item category, basics of the pricing procedure, or any other functionalities. Really, our focus would be everything which is around HANA, S4 HANA. Which are the functionalities? What are the differences? What are the terminologies in HANA? Why they are like that? So our focus would be in that direction. That is the intention. So just to be fair with the audience, their minimal expectation is you are at the least knowing the basics of SAP sales and distribution. So that is more like a starting point. Who can join? Actually, anyone can join. Means we are going to talk about some of the advanced functionalities of the HANA, concepts of the HANA database, terminology, and many other things. So almost everyone who is near to the sales and distribution processes or sales processes can join this particular session. It would be definitely helpful and nice if you know SD better, then you can relate it with the point of view of the differences in the functionality. And that's the beneficial part. In this session, initially, everyone are muted. Because it's a community sessions, we have very easily more than 25 to 30 people are there. It would be unfair to keep it unmuted, and then there is consistent disturbances are going on, and that is why our support team has muted all of you. That does not mean that you will not be able to talk. We will be able to talk. What we will do is today, I would very quickly take you guys through the SastraGeek. So SastraGeek is the supplier of this training. I am a trainer, so I would take you guys through the SastraGeek's slide. Just a very quick overview about the curriculum, what is going to be, what is targeted to be covered as part of this session. And then we would like to go ahead and have some discussions about SAP's journey, how the SAP evolved from very early stage of the R2 till S4 HANA. We'll open up after that for some question and answer, and later we will again move back to terminologies, general terminologies which we keep hearing around HANA, central finance, simple logistics, HANA Live, HANA Database. What is the difference with the S4 HANA, Sidecar? What is the suits on HANA? So many terminologies which keep hearing. So we will talk about a little bit of differences of those terminology, and then we'll also open up on the question answer, and we will end our session there. So this is our current plan to go through. Some ground rules, obviously, in general, as I mentioned initially, you guys will be on mute. However, we would definitely open up for the question and answer. But if during those time as well, you are not speaking, then please keep your mute and be mindful of other people who are in the call or who may be speaking at that point of time. During the topic explanations or even here onwards, anything, you have any questions related to course content, price, and other things, write it down in chat. Our support team members will definitely keep answering you. I would answer as much as possible, but more SastraGeek teams, SastraGeek groups support team will be giving you the majority of those answers. You have right now on the screen how to reach to support team. So there is a mail, there is a phone number via WhatsApp, and you can definitely approach for any questions, uh, any questions related to course directly to them. Anything related to the like topics which we are discussing, definitely I would be the one who will answer those things. So not to spend much more time on the ground rules, quickly introducing myself. I am Rudra Pal. I have worked 13 to 14 years in doing the SAP consulting. Mainly my focus has been sales and distribution. Throughout my career, I have worked as a solution architect, SD consultant, more as an integration consultant, um, design responsibles for multiple implementation support rollouts, as well as upgrade projects, and I have worked in support as well. Have trained many people on various courses as an in-house consult trainer, as well as an external trainers, and various industries I have worked on. I would not spend much more time on discussing that particular part, but let's look at our course content. So what I would do is, no, I am not training for R. So there was a question in the chat from Gopi Shankar. You also training for RAR? I do not train for RAR. However, I do encourage you guys to approach SastraGeek team, because they being a training providing organization, they would have many more other trainers who may be training for RAR too. So moving on with that, courses. So if you will open SastraGeek's site, you will be able to see services, corporate training, exam preparation, forum, and courses, where if on the courses, you will go on instructor-led courses. Instructor-led courses, then you would be able to see our course advanced sales. Yes. And once you will go to this our simple logistic SAP SD Advance, you would be able to see majority of the idea about course duration, when the batch starts. I think this date needs to be updated probably, and some more support team, for the support team's reference, that date needs to be updated. But in general, all other informations regarding regarding uh, details of the content, what will be covered, why it will be covered, and so on and so forth. Typically, what we are going to take today is this part, SAP's journey from R2 to S4 HANA. And I would actually jump and take this part faster as a terminology, because that's more easier topic to combine with. Subsequently, we will go ahead with the data footprint reduction discussions, and why HANA database and is more efficient than the traditional database, and so on and so forth. We'll also give you guys a high level understanding of the Fiori overview, because many of the consultant who has consistently work on ECC may not have that much an idea, unless and until it has been integral part of your organization, may not have that much an idea about Fiori, and it makes logical sense to understand a bit of Fiori for us, because we may have to train and explain the things to our users. Also, with S4 HANA 2020, HANA functionalities, many of the functionalities can only be accessed via Fiori. And that means it is really integral part for us to learn as part of this course. We will also go through the business partner functionalities more in detail, where we will do the configuration of the grouping roles, different views. How do we control? How do we manage same numbering between the business partner and corresponding customer or vendor functionalities? What are the default options? How can I control the fields, mandatory, non-mandatory, for the business partner, and those kind of setup. Here, one of the assumption is obviously you guys know the basics of partner determination and all, and we will just touch base from how business partner relates towards our partner determination and account group settings. Also, we'll talk about the smart operations of with the Fiori. Subsequently, analytics which are available with the Fiori for the sales related applications, and Later we will enter in more special functionalities like sales order approval process. For example, now with the S4 HANA, there are functionalities of you can approve your credit memos, you can approve your sales order. So earlier these functionalities were always available within the for purchasing. Now they are available here for sales as well. And obviously that means we should really learn it, because many companies keep doing the custom implementation for the same. Subsequently, we will enter into the ATP topics, advanced ATP topic, backorder processing, product allocation functionalities, alternative based confirmation functionalities, where we will really understand what are the differences and why this kind of functionalities are required, release for delivery, product substitution, supply protection. And then we will move towards our bit of a traditional topics like rebate settlement management. So earlier we have a rebate functionality with S/4HANA. It's no more there. It would be a settlement management, and we need to understand how does these things looks different compared to our rebate functionalities. Same. We will also touch base the credit management, which has been moved to the FSCM completely with entry of the S/4HANA. So we will understand that particular part, and we will also try to cover the Fiori apps around those topics. We'll understand advanced output management, which is ultimately a BRF plus. We'll also understand downsides of these topics. It's not that every new functionality which is coming up is good, better, and best. Sometimes there can be a situation where it's a limited functionality, and like an agile approach, SAP is improving step by step those functionalities. And there are miscellaneous topics which we will cover as well at the end of the day. So this is all about our course curriculum. Today's session, today and tomorrow's session, we will try to keep it bits short, as it is a community session. And once we have a fixed amount of joinees already available, we will open up with any other like detailed sessions in future. Ultimately, at this point of time, my plan is to keep these sessions only on Sundays as much as possible. And the reason behind that one is you guys get more time during the week to go through the functionality, or probably a practice by yourself. And that flexibility I wanted to give you guys. And that is why it would make sense that um, you are utilizing this during the whole week. So give me 1 second. If you have any question, please feel free to write down your questions in chat itself, in the chat. So it will become our support team can keep answering you in between wherever it is applicable. I can see 5 or 6 questions. So before we start, what will be covered today? Bishwabhushan, you have a question. So we are going to cover today SAP's journey from R2 to S4. And we are definitely going to cover some of the terminologies which we keep hearing about HANA database, and so on and so forth. So it would be that two topic which we will cover. There is a question, revenue recognition, are we covering? No, we are not covering revenue recognition. That's completely different training. This class timing is one of the question in chat box. Class timing would be target at this point of time is to plan it on the Sundays, 5:30 India time. And that means 5:30 India time, and 3 to 4 hours further. So 8:30 to 9:30, almost 9 o'clock India time, it will be ending on every Sunday. If you think on a European timing, because it's a question, then it would be at 2 o'clock, with the consideration of right now there is daylight saving differences. So in Europe, it would be 2 o'clock till 5 to 6, somewhere in between 5 to 6, depending upon how the topic, how big or small topic, or where we are during the discussion. So I hope, Ravi, this gives you an answer. Yes, Randir, condition contract. That's part of your settlement management, and we will cover those things. Okay, so with that, let's enter in our initial discussions. Um, I love to write quite a lot on the screen. However, I would like to warn you guys that my writing is not that smooth how many of the people's I have seen doing, but I would try my best that it is readable enough for you. So what we are going to discuss, we are going to start with SAP Journey. What we will talk about. So at very early stage, if many of you may be a veterans in the SAP, and I know that many of the classes, some of the community sessions, very expert people had joined as well. So those veterans who has spent quite a lot time with SAP, you all know that 1970 onwards, SAP had started, right? And the first version SAP had came back with was R2. Why was it called R2? It was a two-tier system, right? It was a two-tier system. What does two-tier system means? It had two systems, two layers actually. One is a database layer, and they had a presentation layer. And that was the main reason why it was called two-tier system. So what is so special about two-tier system? At this point of time, SAP had only one focus. They had opened up the ERP system and they really wanted to push it in the market. They had a most simplest, and considering that era of 1970s, they had a very simple system where there is a presentation layer, but it was really I would say black screen. If you will search on the Google, you will be able to find those situations that you will be able to see those screens. As an example, it was literally a black screen with the white writing. You can see. If it's many people who would have done the coding and all on the DOS system, you would be able to relate with those things. And that was their presentations layer, and all the programs, all the coding and database update, like commitment of information of transaction was happening directly in the database. So it was a direct connection between presentation layer or a presentation system to the database system, and that is why it was called two-tier system. But obviously this was very early and primitive era system, and that means there were some limitations like black screen. It was not very user centric, so your user interface was bit poor as well, right? Because early stage of the topic. Second thing, speed and performance was reduced. It was so much reduced. So all these things were like kind of a downsides of that particular time. Why speed and performance was reduced? Because all the programs or all the kind of executions, first the infrastructure was a bit more primitive. Second thing, all the programs and executions were directly happening on the database level, in addition to the committing, and the databases were not that strong at that point of time. So overall speed was pretty low. Third thing, integration was poor. Why integration was poor? Integration was poor because connection, like current world, we understand that there are many ways to connect two different system. It can be SAP system, it can be non-SAP system. These technologies and functionalities was not implemented at that point of time. So even integration was a downside at that point of time. But SAP survived. That is why we are still learning it after these many years, almost of 50 years, right? So they could still survive with those downside situations. Ultimately, they moved after 20 years, around 1990, to the R3 system. Now, why did they call it R3? So here they made a bit of a change. They introduced Presentation layer stays as it is, but they introduced an application layer. And this application layer is finally connected to the database layer. What benefit did they achieve it? Here, they they really did the analysis that if I really want to improve my system's performance, I need to segregate the database and logical execution or a programmatic logic. If I disconnect these two parts, then my database commit can become faster. I can utilize remaining memory during my execution of my programs and logics. And that is why they came back with an application layer. So what happened in application layer? Everything related to your ABAP code and your programming, all these things are available in the application layer. Database has only one job to do: commitment of the data, fetching data, and again, like, like providing whatever the queries are being executed via application layer. So from presentation layer, you pass the command to the application layer. Any calculations and any necessary programmatic execution will happen here. If data needs a fetching or extraction, that will be done from the database system. This really improved the performance compared to what was there on the R2. So see, we need to look at the performance in a relative way. It really improved. Even though if you would be the one who has worked in the R3, you would say, oh no, man, what are you saying? It was not an improved performance. I don't remember the improved performance, but if you compare it with the R2 situation, really performance was improved. Second thing, we talked about um, user interface or a black screen. In the R3, they came back with the GUI, graphical user interface, that traditional SAP screen, which many people remember, and many people even have called ugly screen. But that was one of the pretty famous success for SAP. During the 1990 onwards, SAP really could manage to enter more strongly, uh, more strongly. They could come up like, more into the market, and many companies adopted SAP from the 1990 onwards, 1990 to the 2000. That was like a golden era for the SAP with R3 itself. Also, we had talked about the integration was limitation here, right? So compared to this, to overcome these integrations with other system, other SAP or non-SAP system, first time introduction of IDOC, ALE happened. This was definitely a boost for the system, because now this improved the situation for the SAP to connect with other specialized tool, which may be in the market, third-party warehouse management tools, or any third-party transport management tools, or even with other bank data and so on and so forth. But at least they could come up with the technology. So they really focused in the integration, in the R3 time integration, a bit of a performance and user experience. They really focused on this particular part. Also, they had started the pioneering the web-based approach for the SAP. So they really tried to open up that what is the what we can do for the SAP to make it web-based, and that approach they really started doing from the R3 onwards. So these were the basics of the change, basics which SAP had overcome, or SAP had overcome or managed to uh, manage to handle the in the R3 time. Now, after this, the third era came, third generation. So if you call the R2 as the first generation, R3 is a second generation, then came the third generation, and that third generation is ECC, that came back from the 2004 onwards, right? ECC, enterprise core component or enterprise central component, whatever we say. Here in ECC, one of the thing happened. What SAP came back with is they started focusing on more specialized tools. So till R3, the focus, there were some additional tools, right? But SAP really started focusing on more specialized. For example, SAP came back with an SRM system, CRM system, APO, advanced planning tools, right? Also came back the TM, EWM, many more specialized, many more specialized tool they started introducing, and also they make it more easy to connect native SAP system to the native SAP system via good plugins and SIF functionality and all. So they really improved, really improved these their own additional tools integration, like integration between them. They really improved. Additionally, they also improved during this particular time their different technology aspects like the OOPS. And now don't ask me any question on OOPS or ABAP. I'm not a technical guy, but they really started improving on WebDin Pro, because they really wanted to move to the web-based functionality. NWBC was very early stage, was introduced it already in the ECC time. And just for information, even Fiori was introduced in the ECC time. So many of already the evolution to move towards the Fiori and web-based approach had already entered in the ECC, but major focus at that point of time for SAP during the ECC era was to develop the specialized tools and integrating them with the ECC. And this continued even in that third generation. But one thing we need to observe is all these three era, what SAP focused on? They consistently focused on user interface, integrations, functionality developments. So this was their focus in all the three generation of the upgrade, right? And then came the fourth generation, S4 HANA, the fourth generation, which came into picture, right? Why S4 HANA? Simplified for HANA, or you can call it fourth generation of the ERP system for SAP, right? And they specifically, very specifically, they put the name of a database in the system, HANA. It's an in-memory database, but they specifically put the database name in the system. What was the thought process? They really learned over the period of time that you can keep focusing on user interface, integration, functionalities, developments, industry practices, best practices, everything, but you still have a limitation unless and until your system's database is not enough powerful. You cannot take all the benefits. For example, this APO or TM or EWM, when it initially introduced, they really added a new functionality. But you go back and ask SAP, okay, I have a special functionality of transportation management. What should I do? Yes, we have. You are at the right place, boss. We have a TM solution. Please use that. But at the end of the day, you have to set up a complete different system. You have to do the integration with your ECC system, and it's a separate box. You go back to SAP, ask, I need an advanced planning solution. I am an international company. Yes, boss, you are at the right place. But the limitation is you have to have your own box. I want a complex reporting. Yes, you are at the right place. But you need to manage your own separate system, BW, in parallel to your existing system. So initially, if anyone will think, they will think that, such kind of architecture may be the reason that SAP wants to keep selling their advanced product, and they are ultimately putting uh, more and more requirements on your pocket by introducing such thing, right? That would be the first thought. But it was not the only reason why SAP had to handle these things. SAP themselves wanted to simplify the architecture of the system. They also wanted to come back with the embedded concepts as much as possible. But unfortunately, all these three systems which we talked about, they were all OLTP system. They were all online transaction platform or online transaction processing system. The purpose was to punch the transaction, create a sales order, create a delivery, create a billing, go ahead, post your values in the accounts, and your end-to-end cycle runs fine. And some basic level of day-to-day report execution. If you really need a KPI based reporting all across the data, reporting all across the years and time, and so much granular or at the abstract level, SAP had always recommended to go for the BW separately. Why? Because BW for this era was always the OLAP, online analytics platform. So in core, the ECC was not an analytics system. And why it was not an analytics system? Because the limitation of the database, the amount of time processing and memory being consumed at that point of time, even for the basic executions, was so much that it was really limiting the SAP's functionalities. It was really limiting the SAP's functionalities. If they would open up the embed, many of you would remember MRP. So almost all of the big companies, if they are doing the MRP run, they would always do the MRP run at night. You will schedule a background job at night, or think of a billing processing, or think of many other processings. Many heavy jobs which would in the big companies was always being recommended by consultants to be executed at night. Why? The main reason is, if you execute those in the same time, the system resources were being consumed so much that whole system will be so slow, your users will complain like hell. And these were all the limitation of the database was not powerful enough to support the multiple embedded systems, keeping your system as a transaction platform as well as analytics platform. This was not possible at that stage. So from 2005 onwards, already when it's pretty early stage, SAP had started working on the HANA database, because they understood that now they need to focus on the database. They have done quite a lot of functionality. Let's focus on database. And they developed their own HANA database, a in-memory database. Now, don't get confused that before HANA, there was no in-memory database. In market, if you will go out and search, yes, there are some more in-memory database. Okay. But HANA is SAP's own in-memory database, and uh, they really improved quite a lot functionalities in the HANA database. We will understand this. We will understand these definitely a bit more in details in the upcoming sessions. Subsequently, once they went ahead with the HANA database, that really improved quite a lot things, because SAP came back with a complete new data models. And these data models were more optimized to associate and to be well utilized with the HANA database. Second thing, the system became now OLEP plus OLTP. That is why you are hearing embedded BI functionalities and so on and so forth with HANA, because now you have more power of handling the analytics. Still your system, still your system is 3 tier. Okay, so this S4 HANA, 4 does not mean it became the 4 tier. It is still the 3 tier system. But because your database became more powerful, something different happened. In the R2, we discussed that why SAP went from the 2 tier to 3 tier system, because they wanted to take away the query execution, program execution, logic execution from the database and separate it from the database and put it in the application layer. With the powerful HANA database, they now came back with the push down methodology and concept where you can prepare your CDS view or certain programs and you can push it down at the database level and do those execution at the database level more faster, more efficient. And these concepts improved with the S4 HANA. They came back with multiple versions, very early stage, 15.11, then they came back with the 16.10, then they came back with the 17.09, 18.09, and 19.09. Till now, if you will think, more or less the concept was the first 2 digit were year and the last 2 digit were month when they had released. Latest version is 2020, so in a way this concept has been bit like disturbed, because obviously this 2020 is not not following the same concept of year and month, but ultimately this is the most latest version which they could bring in. Obviously they improved Fiori like anything, because everyone was complaining before that your systems, your user interface is not smart enough, it's not intuitive enough. So they decided to make it more intuitive, and that is why maximum functionality and every new functionality which is now being introduced are being handled or being introduced via or based on Fiori. So they really pushed on those part. They also, because the HANA became more capable, they now are able to come back with embedded TM, embedded EWM, special functionality of simple finance. They could come back with some basic functionalities of embedded APO. Not everything which is there in APO are there, but they could bring in quite a lot things. Embedded BW. Why they could bring all these things up? They could bring it up because now they have more powerful database. Even if all these functionalities are activated for bigger bigger FMCG clients, which may be working in 100 or 150 countries, but their systems are now still able to manage those functionalities on the same system. Less infrastructure, less memory intensive hardware, and better performances are something which HANA is promising as part of the S4 HANA. I would take a pause here, and if you guys have any questions, we can go for. If you have any question, can you please raise your hand? That would be nice, so I can see and unmute the people. Okay, no questions at all. That's nice. Let me then check in chat. Could you please give an idea on SAFe? Arun, I would be fair. First thing, I'm not a technical guy, so I would be able to tell you a very abstract about the SAFe, but SAFe is typically the core interface. And why SAP introduced the core interface? SAP introduced the core interface to connect the SAP to SAP systems more easily. Because if it is a native systems, you really can improve the connections between those systems, and that is why SAFe was introduced. Let me check quickly. Number ranges now has a buffering method. Is there any change? Number ranges had a buffering method even before. So it's not, buffering is not something new. Bishwabhushan, buffering is still there. Number ranges has in the 2020 they introduced a more interesting concept with the number ranges, right? For example, your invoice number is numbering is there. You want to introduce a default prefix. For example, your company code numbers in front of that numberings. Invoice numbers. It became more easier. You can do those things upfront. You have now those things are covered as a configuration itself, and you can improve. But otherwise, standard buffering of the number ranges as well as parallel buffering, the concepts which were there are still the same. Gautam, you have a question that will we be covering migration cockpit as part of this training? No, we are not going to cover migration cockpit. We will focus on OTC functionalities as well. However, I would really recommend you to approach back to SAP, no, the SastraGeek's support team, because I know there has been good migration related trainings as well as videos were prepared, and they maybe have some offline accesses available for those special cases. There were some, if I remember very well, there were some videos explaining the, like, HANA Studio and those things more in detail, as well as migration concept and downloading or uploading default functionalities of migration for the customer master, material master, and so on and so forth. So I would really recommend you to approach SastraGeek guys for the offline recordings. Some of the questions like, can you please explain how does sales happen in retail industry? It will be very helpful for me to understand and all. Uh, Really, that's very industry specific topic, and I would be honest with you. I have not worked in the retail industry. Um, I have worked many industry, but never got a chance to work on the retail industry. I I would still assume that the processes and HANA functionalities which we are going to cover are really the common, all standard, which really SAP handles, regardless of if you are working in the chemical industry or healthcare industry or a FMCG industry or a retail industry, because these are all more standard and common functionalities which we will cover. And I can already see the one of the answers given by our support team, that recording of this session will be shared to you guys within 1 or 2 days. Yes. Hmm. Abhinandan has asked one question. Hi Rudra, could you please explain about SAP Hybris, kind of front-end cells, and also throw some light on C4C, etc. Abhinandan, again, one of the specifics. Yes, Hybris. So Hybris as a front-end tool for the order entry and all those will stay. Definitely, they are there. Those functionalities are there, and they are still being improved and supported by SAP. No question on that part. C4C, I'm not much of a C4C consultant, so truthfully, I would not be able to give you much of an idea on those part. Though what we will cover in our discussion is, because all this topic which you are talking about, so we really need to understand one of the concept. Give me 1 second. If I will, I'll touch base one of the concept, because what will happen if you are talking about implement, like ECC is there and you want to go from ECC to S4 HANA, and you have some other periphery function, periphery system. You have a periphery system as an APO. You have a periphery system of the Hybris, or you have any other periphery system of another SAP. What will be the impact on those system? If I upgrade S4 HANA, those systems will still work, will not work. What is the general approach? And we can talk about that general approach, because that makes more logical sense to understand compared to trying to understand each and every periphery system. So I would just quickly check at the chat if there are any other question before I come back to that point, Abhinandan. 1 second. Any of the class, if you are explain the migration process from SAP ECC to S4, um, I'm planning to explain you guys the high level idea about migration approach. So typically what kind of tools are used? For example, maintenance planner are used, SRC tool, simplification checklist. What is the difference between those tools? Why those tools are that way? What kind of role will come? If you think of your ECC system is being upgraded to S4 HANA, if I don't want to adopt to any of the new functionality, for me it is just a technical upgrade. So what is my role as a functional consultant? We will talk about those things as well. We will talk on those points too. Let me check any more question. Okay, no. So Bishwa Bhushan, I can see you are asking for unmuting yourself and raise a question. Let me unmute you. I generally try to avoid that one in the community session, but now you would be able to unmute yourself, Bishwa Bhushan.
Hi Rudra, good evening. Hi Rudra, good evening.
No.
Is it audible?
Are you guys able to hear Bishwa Bhushan? Because I'm not able to hear him.
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
Yes.
Okay, that means definitely there is a problem with my mic. It was all majorly the one directional communication. Give me 1 second. Bishwa Bhushan, can you say something again, please?
Yeah, hi Rudra. It's audible now?
Yes, I have switched my mic from my headphone to another speaker. Hopefully my voice is also
Yeah,
properly for you.
yeah, it's audible. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, and thanks. You explained whatever till now is very detailed and very useful for me as well for everybody. So my question was upon the number range, there was a typing mistake. Again, repeating like the number range like we have in the ECC has a buffering method, parallel buffering, no buffering. So my straight question for that: is there any changes in HANA for that? And there are some challenges we feel we face in current client also. Like actually, we have a one object assigned to for order delivery and invoice. So do we have any additional changes done in HANA for
Your
that?
Okay, so Vishwabhushan, actually, I would be very honest. I did not came across any changes which has been introduced till now on the buffering part. What I would do is I would go back and check if there is really any differences in the buffering. As of now, my understanding is still the same as you. There has not been any buffering change which has been introduced. So your parallel buffering as well as parallel buffering and no buffering concept is still available as it is. Second thing, still the object are same. Your object number, object for the RF underscore Belag and all, or RV underscore Belag, that is same for the sales document delivery and billing. I have not came across or realized that there has been any change or independent objects. What has been changed, as I had mentioned, is more like numbering has now the option of prefixes. So you do have now the more flexibility of the prefixes introduction, but with the limitation that the length of the field is still 10. So for example, you are going to use a 4-digit, that means your remaining numbering becomes only 6-digit. But I have not realized about the buffering thing. What I can do is I can do the analysis. I can do the checking from my side. You know,
Sure.
it can be it's not necessary that everyone knows everything 100%.
Correct. It's
I,
like
I would
not
take check back on my side too.
correct. Actually, I'm struggling little for that understanding. So I thought it'll be right to ask you as you literally explain everything. So to get some more input from you about that.
Fair point. Fair point. Yeah. Okay. But then I would request you to again go on mute, and we'll try to move to the next topic. Uh, Let me check. Last question is there. Please tell the changes happening in application layer in HANA from R3. Oh, that's a more tough question for me as a functional consultant, truthfully. Um, one of the biggest differences which I recognized, it's a GV Aditya, so I would call you Aditya. One of the difference which I recognize is the introduction of this CDS view. First thing, CDS view functionality, introduction of the proxy concept behind the old table structure which were there, they have, and which would no more be there as a data storing information. So those changes definitely are bigger changes which I felt on the application layer. But truthfully, I'm being a more functional guy. I would not be able to recognize or discuss about technically what are the changes on the application layer. So Aditya, I guess I do not have a full answer for your question. I would check back on my side as well if there would be anything, definitely. So guys, I think we have talked about quite some discussions on SAP's journey, but let's have a next discussion on the various terminologies which we have heard. So till now, if I just think till now, how many terminologies I have heard? So when I had started very early of learning the S4HANA, because everyone has to learn at one or another point. When I was learning initially, I was totally lost because my first understanding was this is all technical. This is just a database update. Why do I need to understand anything about HANA? Though that misconception got clarified immediately when my employer pushed me to learn it. So that's a complete difference. But then when I started learning very by myself at a very basic level, there are so many words. I first came across the word HANA. But then I also came across the word SOH, which is suits on HANA. Then I heard the simple finance. Someone came back with the B4H, BW for HANA. In parallel, I always kept hearing on cloud, on premise, and then central finance, simple logistics. And once I went to one interview, and that was only a normal sales and distribution consultant interview. And the interviewer asked me, so do you know anything about sidecar scenario? I was totally fumbled, right? Because if you have not heard about this much of a terminology, it's really not that easy to relate those things. And definitely, as a only pure ECC functional consultant, someone comes back and suddenly asks you, so can you explain a bit about sidecar scenario? Have you heard about that? In my company, we have a sidecar scenario. It really can become a very tricky discussion to handle. Obviously, it's not every, as I mentioned, not everyone need to know everything, and we can all learn at a different stage. So I gave exactly the same answer, and it worked out well for me. But then I decided to learn the things. But this terminology is a more important topic, so I would quickly take us through the next 20-30 minutes to various terminology, what these things are. And if ever comes across, at least you should have a clarity that what is the differences between them. So let's start with this. 2010, SAP introduced first terminology, typically SAP HANA. What this was about? At that point of time, it was all about HANA Database. They had just introduced HANA Database. They were working on this topic from 2005 onwards already. Okay. So very early stage, if you will look at when first time HANA word was ever introduced in the SAP's world, that was actually word was introduced already in the 2005 onwards. However, they really introduced their first database, in-memory database, in 2010. And what was their first that database being pretty open, like database, any system.
it is not only tied up with it's at the end of the day database like IBM's database or any other database. So you can have your own system, you can have your own tool or something you can maintain, and you can use HANA as a database. Does not matter which is the front end system. It can be SAP, it can be Oracle, it can be any other thing. But ultimately, they introduced the database at this point of time. The first usage which was sold in the market maximum was, or at least they tried to sell in the market, was from 2012 onwards, SAP BW on HANA. Or like if you will see the SAP's slides, they literally write BW powered by SAP HANA and all, bit of a jazzy style naming at the time. But they really introduced in 2012 BW. Their intention was actually to push the BW system, that HANA database and the combination of the BW system for a more advanced analytics. Because even though I very early stage mentioned that BW is a OLAP, it's for the reporting, right? But even if you are one of the FMCG company who is running the business on the SAP or existing BW system for last 10 years, and now you want to do a KPI analysis by pulling all the transactions data, then aggregating them, then filtering it out, and then finally prepare the KPI of the 10 years of segregation of information, system was taking some time. It's not that it was a magical situation that it would not take time at all, or it would be just like magically change it. But at least SAP, the similar kind of reports which were taking 20 to 30 minutes, that became more efficient on the HANA platform with the BW. That would just take a 30 seconds or something. SAP has done the to prove their software systems are really effective. They really came back by doing this analysis and showing that why HANA database is more effective. Why they had to do all these things? Because at the end of the day, SAP's HANA database was and is more costlier than any other database which traditionally companies were using. So now SAP had to push in the market to introduce more and more benefits. Why you need that? They try to push it that, if you are on HANA database, we have so much level of compression functionalities. Traditional database, you need a 500 GB space. On the HANA database, you need 80 GB space. They try to market them with some real taste and analysis and proofs and all. They really did many multiple papers to push and explain the customers what is the importance of the HANA database. And they started with the BW on HANA. Some consultant even moved there, but also at that point of time, between like 2012 onwards, they realized that there are not many companies who are really adopting BW on HANA. So what they did is they introduced a sidecar scenario. My interview question, which was asked to me, and definitely then I spent some time to really understand what is sidecar scenario. So think it this way. This is an ECC system. Okay, and you are in any one of the database. Let's take it as any database, Oracle database or Sybase or whatever, any one of the database you are. You are punching all your transactions, sales order, delivery, billing consistently. What SAP would introduce is SAP will say, buy our HANA database in parallel. Okay. SAP also came back with an interesting tool which is known as SLT, System Landscape Transformation. Okay. So their thought process was, by introduction of this SLT tool, we will keep fetching your data from your ECC system as well as your database system via SLT and pass it to our HANA database. This transfer of the data was so fast and almost real time. Now I am using almost real-time word because there was some gap of 10 seconds or 1 minute. You have a flexibility to adjust that gap, how much you need to be, but almost real time, this data would be passing and updated in the HANA database. Now what their plan was that all this data, you can utilize that data from here instead of here, and you can use various kind of SAP's own provided views, SAP's views, reporting, table connection, table joint, and default views, which they started calling in the market, by the way, guys, HANA Live. It's a paid functionality. It's a paid functionality. So these SAP views ultimately, which is being called as a HANA Live, they introduced with the HANA database. And you can connect this information further to any other tool, it can be your BI tool, it can be your Lumira tool, or it can be any other analytical platform or graphical reporting tool, whatever you want. You can connect this information and take out your beautiful graphics. In a way, their intention to call here was that this part is your main car, the main system which is running, and this second part, which is on this part, this is your sidecar. Without disturbing your main car, the sidecar has been introduced, which has almost real-time information. And because having the almost real-time information, it is you are able to do the better reporting out of this system. Now you can always think, this is the data duplication. What is this? This is data duplication. You already have one. Now you are first thing managing two databases. Your infrastructure became more costly. You are in between with the another tool, SLT. Also, this information you have to use with the support of another tool. So your infrastructure, your investment becomes too much high in this whole story. And additionally, your data footprint is increasing. This is exactly against the whole fundamental which SAP was trying to introduce with the HANA, that your data footprint will be reduced. Here it is an increased data footprint. Which is silly, right? This, but okay, they had to sell it in the market, they had to do something, and that's what they did. They tried to introduce the concepts as much as possible. Yes, Vikramaditya, your question about cloud analytics will be fetching the data from HANA database. Yes, they can. That was the whole intention. They are introducing HANA database. Any tool which can connect with this database can fetch the database, fetch that information by help of the reports or directly from the tables, prepare their own output or presentation, whichever way they are doing, and can utilize it. So that was the point. But ultimately, this parallel system was more like a sidecar, was called as a sidecar. And they try to really push this. I don't know how much it has been pushed, but if I'm a consultant and if this is a discussion, I would try to cut that discussion down. Why? Because in market, there was more easy solution available from the 2013 onwards. And that is SOH, Suits on HANA. First thing, the whole amount of infrastructure investment which was happening in the sidecar scenario, that's insane, right? Compared to that, Suits on HANA, what that did, that simply in 2013 introduced, this is your ECC system, but connected on the HANA database. And if you have HANA database, that means you still have the option of calling for those. If you still want those HANA Live functionality, you can still connect it with your BW system and use the HANA Live functionalities. Yes, you have the same options. And at the end of the day, you are just managing one database. and no more too much data duplication and so on and so forth, and all other benefit of HANA in memory database system performance increase and all were available. So this was the main benefit part when SAP introduced the suites on HANA. How many benefits came? Performance increase. Your database being your system became more like a OLAP plus OLTP. Not completely, but quite a lot, because here onwards you can use already embedded reporting functionality, CDS views. So you already have these efficient reporting options available. You could already push the reporting, execution of programs down in the database level. So those additional functionalities definitely were available, and without the limitations of or restrictions of the HANA's traditional concept. In traditional concept, we say no more customer creation. You have to go only from the business partner, no other way. But in this suites on HANA, no such restriction was not there. You are still going to use your customer master, vendor master, and other things as it is. So all the transactional approach will be still your ECC system and technological benefits available with the HANA connections. And that is why this solution was more efficient, and many companies from 2013 onwards moved to the HANA database. Still till that time, HANA itself was not that much efficient. And because HANA itself was not,
I don't know that one.
sorry, my Alexa suddenly woke up. So HANA system was not that much effective. So companies decided to hold on the moving to the HANA, right? Because within the not immediate, in 2013 HANA was not introduced, but even 2013 onwards, this concept of suites on HANA was there, but companies were thinking, there was a dilemma that should we wait some more years for the futuristic system of the HANA to be coming in, or should we move to the suites on HANA? And majority of the companies decided to move on the suites on HANA because of the experiences, that if any new module or any new functionality which has been introduced by the SAP, it generally takes 2, 3, 4 years to reach to the stability of the system. So after this particular whole analysis and whole suites on HANA continued, in 2014, in parallel, now SAP came back with a new thing. They said, we would like to introduce simple finance. They really improved the functionalities here. They completely simplified. They completely simplified the GL postings and their background tables structure. They introduced a simple version for all posting for the ACDOCA table, and many more functionalities improvement they introduced with the simple finance. And the benefit is, this simple finance is an add-on functionality which can be activated on the suites on HANA system. You don't have to move completely on anywhere else. You can just activate it as an add-on functionality on suites on HANA. But this way, SAP was keep coming back year on year, 2010, 2012, 2013, 2014, again and again, with many update and one function after another function after another function. Market looks for the stability. It's not that easy that everyone will keep moving on year on year with the new tools. So market looks for the stability, and that is why on the 2015, finally, SAP introduced proper S/4HANA system, S/4HANA system. And obviously on the S/4HANA, you have simple finance and simple logistics. What is simple logistics? Simple logistics is not nothing a new module or something. It is ultimately the same system setup. Your same SD, which now they are calling more like a sales, which now they are calling as a sourcing and procurement, logistics processes they are calling more separately, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, group of all logistics module is now being called as a simple logistics, and they are having now the more advanced functionalities. And this is more like they introduced a various systems introduction, various terminology, and how and why they moved on. So what I will do, I'll take a pause at this point, and if anyone has any question, you can either put it in chat or raise your hand. And meanwhile, I'm just looking quickly. Danny J has written one of the question. Hi, I have one generic question. Are S4HANA SD and S4HANA Cloud for sales different product or modules, or the same? They are different. Cloud module S4HANA, the C4C, right? That's completely different module than the S4HANA sales. S4HANA sales, as in still you are in the sales and distribution module. You have same order, delivery, billing, and your whole functionality. Additionally, what you have is the advanced functionalities which are introduced with the various stages of the releases. Advanced ATP, advanced back order processing, advanced product allocation, release for delivery functionalities. Your some of the old tables has been moved out. You have more proxy views. Settlement management is introduced instead of rebate, credit management, and all. But ultimately, the system point of view, it's end of the day, it's same sales and distribution module with an additional functionality. Yeah. So SD, MM, and LE, that was our traditional name. Now it is sales, sourcing and procurement, and logistics. And when we are saying logistics, it's more generic, because logistics means everything related to PP, QM, your shipping shipping and all those things. Everything can be called all together as a logistics. Exactly, you are right. Simple finance and simple Bangladesh. You're right. From the 2014 onwards, there is a single simple thing, S4 HANA Core. And that S4 HANA Core already has a simple finance and our standard modules with the advanced functionalities, which we are calling now as all together as a simple logic. So guys, anything else? How many sessions we will take? We will take around how many? 10, 20, 21 sessions to cover all the contents which we are targeting. Okay, I can see interesting comments from the Bangladesh. Bangladesh, let me unmute you. I'm sure it would be pretty time consuming if you have to write down everything. You would be able to unmute now, Bangladesh.
Okay, hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Actually, I thought this S4 code is the core of the IT side of the whole S4 HANA suite. If I'm not wrong.
Okay. See, you in a way you are right, Bangladesh, right? But let's what I would do, I would open the system. I want to still cover one of the earlier question before I touch base your topic as well. Okay. We will spend like 5 minutes on that topic.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You can go on mute again. Thank you. So one of the earlier question which I wanted to answer, which I had kind of parked till now, was I am on ECC system. See guys, we are going to discuss these things and some of this scenario a bit more in detail in our detailed sessions, but because this is the first session and community discussion, it's fair to raise some of the questions, and I would try to give some time to those points. So let's take it this way. This is an ECC system, okay? And this system has connected periphery system. Let's take it as one of the APO system is there, and another is a non-SAP system. We take both scenario. And now your target is to upgrade this system to S/4HANA. So what would be the impact on this APO system, which is your SAP system, and something else, which is your non-SAP system? What will be the impact? So first thing, in all the kind of upgrade and all the kind of like our basis team and basis team, the kind of tools they are using, they are very smart. You know, we as a functional consultant do not have much visibility that when the technical upgrade happens and other things happens, what kind of things and what kind of analysis our teams does. But if you are more closer to the project, you would realize there are many tools which are provided by SAP. One of the very famous and known tool is a maintenance planner, which every basis guy use for every upgrade. Maintenance planner. So what they do is, whenever any kind of upgrade comes, they always executes or uses the maintenance planner and ultimately checks your SAP system's functionality, that is this system upgradable or not. There are many reasons it is possible that your system may not be upgradable just for the conversion point of view, as well as if there are any connected SAP systems are there, then what is the impact? So when they will execute, they will find out, they will actually ultimately check the connected SAP systems versions as well. And then they will be able to find out that if I upgrade ECC to the S/4HANA, and for example, my APO is very on the old version, I need to upgrade my APO system to the newer or more latest patch or more latest version before I can connect it back to my S/4HANA system. So there are already enough amount of tools available which will do the analysis for your own system as well as your connected SAP systems and propose. And it can be any system. It can be your like BW system which is connected. It can be your EWM system. It can be TM system. Any of the systems which are connected, which is native SAP system, it will be able to do that analysis and come back if as it is, it can be connected or not connected. Now, the second question you can ask is, what about this non-SAP system? I have an interface with third-party logistics system. They are using their own warehouse system, some small company top tool, and I'm connected by the IDOC functionality. What should I do? Would it be a trouble for me? The conceptually, at the end of the day, ECC was an ABAP stack system. When I say ABAP stack system, that means your core is ABAP. And your S/4HANA is also ABAP stack system. So your functionality stays as it is. You will still be able to connect your S/4HANA system with non-SAP system as well, because your IDOC, ALE, these functionalities are not changed. They are still there, and they will work as much as with the how good they are working with the ECC. It will be working here. There can be definitely an effect from the point of view of data models, because some of the core data models are changing and so on and so forth. So yes, there can be an effect, and that is why any kind of upgrade, any kind of such a big upgrade, ECC to S/4HANA is a very big upgrade. We always recommend that 100% testing is required, even though your system, even though your maintenance planner or any other system tools tells you that no, there is no impact on your existing system, even after upgrade, it will work as it is. You should still do the 100% testing. That's one of the very highly recommended approach. Okay, then just to have a quick discussion about that S4 core. We will still discuss this with bit more graphics, but I just wanted to quickly talk about the Bangladesh point. See, S4 core, what is S4 core? So S4 core point of view, your all the core functionalities of your SD, I'm still using our traditional wordings, PP, QM, WM, those all the basic setup, your basic functionalities which are there, you would be able to utilize. That is your S4 core. But it is not enough, because now you have more options and more functionalities which has been introduced, right? More functionalities, advanced functions has been introduced. And if the advanced functions has been introduced, so you can now activate those functionality on the S4 core. So in the S4 core, what will be available? You have that traditional availability check concept is available, right? That is part of your S4 core. That would be available. Now, if you want to use advanced ATP or advanced product allocation and so on and so forth, so within this S4 core, now you have a functionality or flexibility of activating add-ons or license-based functionality. That means you can now activate and utilize you have in S4 core, you have the native functionality, and or special functionality you will be able to activate over this particular on the S4 core itself. That is why one of the common terminology which you also hear is S4 HANA Enterprise Management. Because here you have to pay like it's a paid functionality, so you have to pay for the licenses. And if you have to pay for the license, you have flexibility to decide what you want to activate and what you don't want to activate. Additionally, now you have an options which is more like an S4 HANA products. HANA products group. That is more like in your embedded functions. Embedded EWM, TM, BW, some of the portion of APO. That is all are embedded functionalities. Now that also you can extend in a way. However, that is called as a group, in a single group, it will be called S4 HANA products. And additionally, you can always have integrated functionalities, so independent systems you want, completely independent, like Hybris, Ariba, IBP, CRM. You want to connect other extended functionalities, which may be your cloud-based functionality or something else. That also you can do, and in that case, this whole group will be called S4 HANA suites. So it's more like a layering strategy. It's more like a layering strategy where a combination of digital core, products, and suites are there. But core means your all the basic functionalities. I hope this could give you a bit of an idea, Bangtesh, what I mean to say by the core. Yeah, thank you, Bangtesh. So I'm just looking at the time. We have actually consumed quite some amount of time. So let me think. What else should I mention about very quickly, because we talk about many terminologies very quickly. 5 minutes we'll spend on the comparison of the various topics and functionalities before we can open up for the 10-15 minutes question answers, if I can answer all the things or whatever I can answer, and then we will close our session. So we talked about ECC, right? We talked about suites on HANA. We talk about simple finance. Even though this it is not comparable with the other combinations, but we will still talk about it a little bit. And S4 HANA. We'll take some of the comparing features. Let's take so ECC, as in your core object point of view, it is called SAP APPL. If you have to check your version, this is the functional version name for the ECC. Same is Suits on HANA is also still, because it is at the end of the day functional point of view, it is a SAP APPL, so it's still the same. Your Simple Finance is also again on the you can, as an embedded, you can activate it on the ECC, so you still have the similar version. However, your S4 HANA base version is called S4 Core, and then you can activate other functions, right? So features point of view, can I run my core ECC processes? Obviously, in ECC you can do it. Suits on HANA you can do it. Simplification, Simple Finance, only finance topic it is intended, but yes, you can do it in general, and as for HANA as well. So that's not a question. Then, is this on the HANA database? This is not on the HANA database, but these guys are all on the HANA database. These guys are all on the HANA database, right? Do I have embedded analytics functionalities available? Now, embedded analytics as in BI, where I can use the CDS view and direct do the high reporting and all, not with the ECC, not with the Suits on HANA. Suits on HANA does provide you the option of creating the CDS views and push down the option, but it's not full-fledged embedded analytics functionalities. Simple Finance, definitely not, but S4 HANA has full functionalities available. One of the thought process, Fiori. Is Fiori available in ECC? Yes, it is. It was introduced pretty early stage, as I had mentioned in the generation shift. It is available in almost all the four level. It is available for all the four systematic level. So ECC also had Fiori, but it was just for the namesake. They had actually activated and designed the platform. They had designed the architecture functionalities, but they did not introduce so many Fiori applications. They just focused on the infrastructure at the ECC's time. Same is obviously Suits on HANA, but Simple Finance came back with some of the Fiori application to be used for the finance, and S4 HANA, with every upgrade, they literally are adding quite a lot new functionalities, new applications under Fiori, the native applications as much as possible. And what kind of project effort will be there? Now, this is more relative question. You cannot say that whatever I'm going to say is the only way to look at it. It can be many other differences. But ECC, if project effort point of view, ECC to ECC is not a discussion, because this is not applicable topic actually. But if you move from ECC to Suits on HANA, it's pretty manageable project, because ultimately it's a medium effort because it's only an upgrade. But when I say only upgrade, you have to still plan. You have to do the prepare your project landscape and your normal system landscape, and then you have to really step by step upgrade, do the end-to-end testing and so on and so forth, just to make sure that nothing is going wrong. But that definitely you have to do for the Suits on HANA. But it is a medium upgrade, because you don't have a much risk of the functionality not being worked. You have to test, but chances are major part will be working. Simple Finance is like, I would not call it a high, but I would not call it a like medium also. So somewhere between medium and high, but let's call it high, and then we will call it very high as a different functionality point of view. Moving to the Simple Finance is bit of a high effort compared to just our Suits on HANA, because here your functionalities are affected. You have to really think about what you want, what you don't want. You have to really plan and do the proper detailed consulting and also proper end-to-end testing. And that is why somewhere next level we have to consider the Simple Finance. If I compare, and this, as I said, this is a relative project effort point of view, S4 HANA would be falling in the very high category. Why it would be falling in a very high category? Many of the people are there, many of the functionalities are there, and you have to really think about, I want this functionality. Do I want to pay for the licenses of the functionality? I have an independent system. Do I want to have that independent system, or I want an embedded functionalities in the EWM, TM, APO, and so on and so forth? Your whole landscape change, your whole upgrade of the system setup, Fiori application interface introduction. You have to decide if I want to really push my users early enough towards the Fiori direction or not. So all those kind of topics you have to think about and act upon. And obviously, again, the 100% testing, not only of your core functionalities, but also every interface which is associated inbound and outbound with your system. Every setup, you have to also write down again a fresh test script, because if you are using advanced functionalities, your existing test scripts may not work. You have to spend time on writing down test script, you have to spend time on training your people, and so on and so forth. So many topics comes you have to consider and handle in your project plan for the S/4HANA upgrade. That is why it is considered a bit high, or comparatively very high functionality. So at this point, I would take a pause, because these were the major topics which I wanted to cover. We can open up for next 10 minutes for question answer. So if you have questions, please either you can write it down in the chat box, or you can raise your hands. Actually, we are receiving less questions. I hope you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Abhinandan. Okay, so that means you guys are able to hear me. Receiving less question may be a different reason. Okay, so one of the question which has been asked here, one generic question: can a SD support engineer will be able to work as a pre-sales consultant? Yeah, see, anyone can work as a pre-sales consultant. So for me, there is really no difference as long as you have a skill, because you just have to convince the client what you are selling. You don't have to be, for the pre-sales, my point of view is you don't have to be master. You just need to have the nice enough convincing skills, and that's enough. To me, really, that's common for in general. Vishwa Bhushan has one question: is it possible to use functionality such as customer master, vendor master with business partner? Yes, actually, business partner is just an overarching structure, but your customer master, vendor master stays as it is. Your tables which are storing the information of the customer master, for example, KNA1, KNVV, KNVP, these all are going to stay as it is. What happened is, SAP is just have made the overarching functionality or a concept of business partner to cover various different kind of partner functions and different requirements. Because many times your one customer may be a customer as well as he may be a vendor. So do you need to handle it two different master data? Probably it would be more logical that to have that particular have the common data as a business partner, and giving the subsequent role of the vendor and vendor or a customer. Now, one of the concept is definitely that your transactions will not be useful. We all remember XD01, XD02, XD03 transactions, right? But these transactions, your access of creation or a change will not be by these transactions. Those transactions will not work out. You will have to always now go through with the new transaction, which is BP, business partner. But that does not mean that you will not be able to use the customer and vendor, right? Those customer and vendor will be there. They are just now being created in backend, and that is exactly what our one of the session or one of the course content section which we were discussing is going to take care of. Can we be able to create if BP activated? Means once BP, so in S/4HANA, you will have to use business partner, BP. Your XD01, VD01 will not be working at all. Ashish Tiwari is saying that I have heard there are major issues faced in customer vendor integration. Is it true? Ashish, I would say that my current project literally, which is on suits on HANA and about to go back to the ECC S4 HANA upgrade within some months, and they are pretty comfortably right now already on S4 HANA on business partner setup within ECC itself as a pre steps for the S4 HANA upgrade. And we already did a test migration in sandbox, and everything worked out fine. So such examples you will find many of the cases. Now I'm not saying that it would be unfair to upfront say that these functionalities are not like we are facing so much issues and all. Earlier stages, as I had mentioned, new tools, it takes 2-3 years to stabilize. More recently, after 1809 onwards, more or less the tools are really stable. They have really improved and focused on the stability of the S4 HANA functionalities. And this way, really, I would say that we are in a good mode. Which version we will use for the training? We will use 2020 version. And that means we will also test our this billing functionality. If we would be on the 1909, we will not be able to manage that. Satnam has a question. I know you mentioned you are not into retail, but for master data in retail module, we have, thank you Satnam for acknowledging my earlier point. We have article master, vendor master, customer master. So in retail too, all these will be replaced by BP. Yes. Article master, I'm not sure. That's more like a material master, no? But your customer master, vendor master, everything, that they all partner functions. All partner functions will be created as a backend connection with business partner. No more XD01, no more XK01, no more VD01.
Let me add it a little bit more what Rudra said.
Hey,
So
Parvinder, I did not realize you are here. Good to have you.
So yeah, Satnam, so even retail use business partner more. Even you will see your plants and many other things are also getting connected with business partner, where it is not only limited to the customer and vendor, even your plants would also be created as a business partner. Even plant creation is as a transaction in retail. So you will see the more usage of business partner in case of retail. Article master, we have a different material master code itself. The material master we don't create with MM01. We have a different transaction. I don't remember that. So we will be using that transactions to create articles or materials for retail. Yeah, MM41. Yes. Yeah, sorry, Rudra, go ahead.
No, I think I was actually addressing the questions whichever are there, whichever has been mentioned here in the chat. But because we are discussing about retail, and I thought to share one of the experience. With our advanced back order processing and so on and so forth functionality, at least there was one limitation up to the 1809. For the retail client, because I am bit of connected with some of the clients who are in very big known AFS industries, and they had upgraded it in the S4 HANA. And because in retail the number of line items are so high, and for the very big client like Adidas, Puma or Nike, these integration and interactions are so high. I had heard that our advanced product allocation functionalities as well as backorder processing functionalities and all were not enough for them till 1809. I have no idea about if those has been changed from the when 2020 functionalities has reached, and if it has been more stabilized for them or not. But that was one of the experience which I had heard from the other consultants who are working for the big retail clients. So guys, any other questions? You can raise your hand. You can type it in the chat. Which topic, which field you are talking about, Gopi Shankar?
I think he's talking about PRCD underscore element. There's some technical change in the pricing procedure table. Yeah, Gopi will cover it. It's a very small change. It's more technical in nature. It's not impacting function much, but we'll cover. Yes.
Yes, this relevant for account determination which you are talking about. So yes, we will talk. Yes, as Parminder mentioned, we will talk on this point. But this is very minor change. In general, this checkbox has been added in the pricing procedure setting itself, and more like earlier time, if you have a statistical condition type, you don't post it. You generally do not post it in the accounts. But nowadays, now with these flexibilities, there are more flexibilities are available to handle and post it in the account, even for your own analytics perspective. One of the example I would say that I have a derived field. Just for an example, I have a derived field of profit margin, which is actually available at the every line item level. And if I really want to start storing it at the account level, or some such kind of situation, this new field is giving those flexibilities, even for the statistical items related postings, or even cost related items posting. We will touch base and we will talk about those things, but these are all generally more minor functions. Ashish Tiwari, when are we planning to start this full course session? We have started. Today was the first session. So we will continue the community sessions for 2 or 3 more sessions, and after that we will only continue with the already enrolled participants. What are the changes in case of international trade and foreign trade point? I did not do the enough analysis on this particular part. Parminder, do you have any idea? International trade and foreign trade point?
Yes, so they're basically so they have messed up. SAP has messed up this area initially when they come up with SAP S4 HANA. So they said that all the foreign trade, international trade need to be gone into the GTS global trade system, or global trade service, whatever you say, GTS. It need to go in GTS, and then the foreign trade functionality was removed initially, if you talk about 15.11 version. But then SAP realized that we need to give some basic functionality, and then they come up with the some sub module of international trade in S4 HANA, which is covering the same functionality which was we were having in foreign trade in ECC, that SAP is covering. But to go through it for the foreign trades, to go through for that, for the end-to-end functionality, the solution is only GTS. Okay, not in S4HANA. Some basic functionality they are providing under the sub modules which they have introduced from 1809. That is called international trade in S4HANA. So we also have a trainings for GTS. And GTS can be add-on. It can be add-on, or it can be separate also. Okay, it can be added on, or it can be separate product also, but it's always a separate licensed. The what come with SAP S4 HANA license is a small part of international trade, which is more or less same as a foreign trade. So we have a 30 to 35 hours of training on GTS. If anyone is interested, I will quickly share the link over the chat window.
So I think we are not receiving much questions now. Okay, thank you, sir.
Rudra, do we have a session tomorrow, or next session is on next Sunday?
No, I was planning for tomorrow's session as well.
Okay, that's great. So guys, tomorrow also same time, right?
Yes, same time.
So tomorrow also we'll be having a session, so you can join in, and we'll be on full throttle from the next week.
Yes. Tomorrow's session, we will talk about a little bit of HANA database, a little bit of data footprint, and how data footprint affects in general our system. And also we'll talk about some of the upgrade scenarios or project scenarios related to S4 HANA. So that's the direction we will move on from tomorrow.
Hi, Rudra.
Hi.
Hi, Rudra. This is Ravi speaking here.
Yes, Ravi.
Because I am handling lots of big project at the moment here. So last week I also have the contact with SAP's consultant from Germany, yes, also from Switzerland also. I wanted to implement the BRF Plus, yes, for my project, yeah, which is and everyone talking to me because I meet with so many consultants. They are telling me that it is not very good for my project, yes. So they are not supporting me. They are not supporting me or give me a guidance of this BRF Plus. What is your feeling, yes?
Did you say BRF plus?
Yeah, BRF Plus, yes.
The output management,
The
right?
output management, correct? Yes, Parminder, yeah.
Yeah. The same, exactly same. We are covering the output management BRF plus in all of the trainings because it's the new functionality. But the experience is very bad wherever we have gone with the BRF plus. So when we are going for the consulting from our side, we are not opening the point of BRF plus. Whenever it is
Okay,
conversion, BRF plus is out of picture. Just don't bring into the picture as a consulting.
okay,
We prefer it
okay,
because
okay,
the
okay.
client is using classic output management and it is
Correct, yeah.
working in S/4HANA perfectly fine after SAP getting initial experience in 1511. From
Mm-hmm.
16 output, classic output management is available. So BRF Plus is having a lot of limitations. So that's why we
Correct,
are
yeah.
doing classic output management. In new implementation also, whatever the recent implementation I have done, 4 implementation I have done and almost more than 10 implementation I am involved in the as a solution architect.
Mm-hmm.
Only one or two places we try to put our hand on BRF plus, and wherever we have put it, we have only burnt it because
Yeah.
that was a very initial level functionality SAP has given. And whenever we go for any kind of complex scenario, SAP
Mm-hmm.
said that BRF plus does not support it. If you'll go through the open SAP courses where they talk about in SAP S/4HANA BRF functionality, one chapter is there. Just
Mm-hmm.
go into the discussion of that chapter. You will see that 100 questions in that people are asking how this scenario will be run, and out of 180 questions, SAP has responded back, use classic output management.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
of
So,
the one of the common situation which also I understood is BRF plus your IDOC trigger, your various kind of automation functionality trigger. You have right now also an option, for example, in the traditional output that you can trigger an output, and that output will ultimately call in background a function module, and then subsequently that function module will go ahead and perform a transaction in your system. Like if you have automatic asset retirement based on the asset sale kind of scenario and all this functionality had met with the limitation the moment we discussed about the BRF plus. So literally you can relate it with your real life situation. If your requirement is I want to send an email, I want to do the printing or
mm-hmm.
PDF generation,
Mm-hmm.
all good. BRF Plus is a pretty decent functionality. But then, as a consultant, I would ask myself, why would I have? Why would I keep two different functionalities open at the same point of time, where one functionality is only working for the limited option, and my traditional proven stable functionality takes care of my many more scenarios in addition to like automatic function module executions, automatic our standard IDOC trigger or other functionality trigger, as well as my basic requirement of email, fax, or print and PDF generation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to take a decision, this is very clear that as a consultant, we would still recommend the classic. That functionality will improve, hopefully, in future. But at this point of time, the classic is more reliable.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
One more thing I will add. So earlier SAP was calling it BRF plus output management. Now in the forums they are calling it new output management. They don't want to call it as a BRF plus because they say it's just a backend technology that they can change it anytime. It looks like they are not very happy with the BRF plus and the new output management, the backend technology they want to change in future. That's kind of hints we are getting for it.
Parminder, here one remark and one question from me. Like you're talking about the output management, what you're feeling, yes, because lot of my consultant coming and telling me that, oh, we go with Adobe form, something comes with BRF Plus, yes, and something comes with the classical forms, yes. So now I get confused which direction I should go, yes, because I have to handle this complete migrations project also, yeah.
So,
So
so
what
the
you
straight away answer is that what we are giving it into the pre-sales, or what we are going into the this all of the implementation is go for the classic output management until 2023.
okay?
2024, till the time BRF Plus is getting stable, then
Mhm.
only you can look forward for BRF Plus actually has quite good functionalities also. We have only talked about the drawbacks. It has quite some good functionalities. It has decision tables. We need to earlier create a lot of output types, different output types. Here you can just create a single output type and manage the different kind of things with the BRF Plus. But BRF Plus is, they are calling it as a classic output management. So
Okay.
what does SAP mean by the classic output management is, if you want to print something, if you want to trigger an email, that is a classic output management. So that two functionalities will work very proper with BRF Plus. That is, they say that it's a classic output management, printing, emailing. That will work very fine. As soon as you go for the automations, IDOC integrations, you will start seeing the limitations.
And additionally, Ravi, did I understand also that you mentioned just now that consultants are discussing, for example, Adobe forms should we use, or traditional forms should we use and all. If that is the question, then it is a bit different than the output determination technology topic, you know.
Mhm.
And there you should really discuss the advantages and disadvantages with your technical guys themselves.
Okay.
In general, in our current projects, we are using Adobe forms
Okay.
almost
Okay. Yeah.
almost majority of the places, and we haven't faced the problem. So experience really depends on who is the consultant, how
Mhm.
good he is working, how
Mhm.
good he is with his topics, and those kind of things also depends on the experience, what is good and what is bad. But I
Mhm.
would say this is, if you should go with the Adobe forms or other kind of form options and so on and so forth, that's something which you should really discuss with the guys. We haven't faced any problem.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Parvinder, I think almost all questions we have tried to answer, and I do not see much of any question.
Yeah, I think we are good. Thank you, Rudra, for taking very exciting session, and it's a very exciting kickoff. So, guys, let's connect together again on the same time and continue this journey. So, we'll put some open community session, and then we will form a batch, and then we'll continue. Yes, HANA Advanced complete curriculum.